Hi, thanks for taking the time to check out this video. Um, I know many of you are well aware that the Ocklawaha River drawdown is currently happening and it'll be happening through March. And I thought it would be helpful to get on here and share a free open access resource with you all that allows you to get in and see the conservation science data. So a lot of really interesting available data um, around the river. So, okay, let's get to it. So, first, you'll want to stick in your search bar CLCP Hub, right? CLCP Hub, and that will give you this option, this arcgis.com option for the UF Center for Landscape Conservation Planning. So we open that up and you'll see the UF Center for Landscape Conservation Planning Hub again opening. And you're going to scroll down to this really neat tool called the EcoCon Viewer. And this is a tool we're going to explore today to look at data. Okay, so click on the tool, and it's going to open with sometimes a little bit of a delay. There's a lot here for it to load up. It's always a good moment to take a breath. And I opened mine a little bit ago, so I didn't have the disclaimer pop up, but there will be a disclaimer screen that opens that you'll have to look at and exit to enter this map. Okay, so now we're here. The first thing I am going to do is actually add data because there is an Ocklawaha River data layer on here. I was actually playing again around with some of these, looking and seeing what's available right now on ArcGIS. So this add data is actually a pretty cool feature. You click the little add button or the plus sign, and you can search for all sorts of stuff. So again, I already kind of played around and I found so there's a BMAP program data layer, there's some water management district data, but the ones that I added were this conservation at DCP, forested and 100-year floodplain, as well as the Ocklawaha River data layer and this Ocklawaha Basin. This is the watershed, HUC 8. Okay, so those are all there. And then to get them to put onto your map, you hit actions, this little four circled square, and then add to map. And you'll do that for each of the data layers, right? So there's the Ocklawaha, it popped up over on the left. And now let's add the river. And this is, you can see the river on the major rivers data that's already embedded on this viewer, but this is just a really nice, clean version of it. And then I'm going to add the forested floodplain. So add to map. And we're not going to use this. Okay, so here we are. Let's see what we added. These three new data layers are showing up. So the Ocklawaha boundary, this is the floodplain forest data, and then the river. So, okay, now we know that those are there. I'm actually going to turn them off just for a second, and let's look at the river. So I am going to search and actually do the river. And you'll see when you do the river, it gives you this point right by where the dam is. But if you want this map to zoom you in better, a really good search spot is actually the Rodman Reservoir. Okay, click on that and it'll take you right in. And again, here's our river. So, okay, now we've seen the river. What are these data layers that are already on? So what you're seeing here is the Florida Ecological Greenways Network. So this is a network of lands, some already protected, some hopefully in some future form of land management or protection that help keep uh, wildlife movement corridors open and protect natural resources. And they're actually prioritized. So one is the darkest green here, you can see on the legend, and 1 through 5. And one is critical linkages. So these are the ones that you really need to keep for state connectivity, like from the Everglades up to the Georgia border, for example. And down here on natural connectivity layers, that's where these live. There's also the critical linkages, which are all named. So we're housed in the O to O. That's where the Ocklawaha is, right on the edge here and right cutting through. That's the Ocala to Osceola wildlife corridor. But there's 10 others, right? There's 10 other critical linkages, P1 priorities throughout the state. And then, as many of you know, the Florida Wildlife Corridor is the top 3 priorities of this network. Okay, so we have the networks. Let's see. I'm going to turn off a bunch of bins just to do that. I will, for fun, just pop on the Ocala to Osceola Wildlife Corridor shapefile. So there's a boundary of it, so we can keep that in mind. And turn off the hydrologic layer. So really just the Ocklawaha River is turned on. And we'll take a look there. There's the O to O and the watershed again. Okay, so next, let's dive a little bit more into the data around the river and what you might find interesting to look at while you're there, or just to be conscious of. Okay, so there's the O to O again, and there's the river highlighted. We're going to start by actually putting on a different map base. So you can come in here and change your base map and make it whatever you want to look like. I really like the imagery hybrid. It's because I tend to like satellite imagery, and this gives some place names as well. Okay, so one of the things that I've heard around, the removal of the dam and future is, well, what about development then popping up right along the river, and what is that going to look like? And I think it's important to look at existing conservation lands to get an understanding, really, so of where development has the potential to pop up, and what is actually protected. So this is the Ocala National Forest, all in this shade of brown, and then the Marjorie Harris Carr across Florida Greenways is this whole long green stretch, right? But you see, it really covers both sides of the river. And again, this is state land. And thanks to the State Park Preservation Act, parks are now protected from commercial development. So, I mean, there are still parcels, right, of private ownership, but largely around this river, there's a lot of protection, conservation lands. And there's more data on conservation lands here in this little drop down area. But I'm going to turn them off for now. And so why does this O to O exist? Well, one of the reasons that gets highlighted here really clearly is for species to move, especially like large charismatic megafauna like the Florida black bear. He's a wide-ranging species, and they often move between this population in Ocala and Osceola and up into Georgia and south. Right? So you'll see here, these are hot spots for black bear mortality, right? So areas where lots of bears have gotten hit are the reddest of the hot spots. But there's been a lot of black bear road mortality all in this area. You can really see this is, there's a lot of bears here, and there's a lot of bears getting hit here. And that's going to come in even more when we zoom in further. And I will say that the oldest data point here in this set is like from the 70s, right? So I think 1976. So some of them are more recent, and you can actually look at that if you want. You can go in here and say, you click on this little 3 dots and say add to table. And then you get this table down below. And you can do this with other data too. Weird. Add to table. I don't know why my table's not. Oh, there it is. Okay, good. So, and here's all the data on the bear mortalities, right? And then, I'm sorry, I know I'm going really fast, so sorry. I just want to get to road dates. So here's the road dates, and then this is how I found out the age, sort descending. So 2023s are actually the most recent data added here, sort descending. Um, oops, sorry. Sort ascending, 1976. There you go. So this does span a range of time. Okay, so bear mortality. I think for this video, I'll end with one more thing, and then if this is helpful, there is a lot more data that we can explore, and there's a lot more stories to be told about what lives here, which is very exciting. We'll cover one more piece right now, so this doesn't get too long. So, animal mortality rates, vehicle collisions. Okay, we understand that bears are on this landscape. We're going to turn these off, and let's turn back on just for fun our watershed. You can't see it too well because of the lighting, but this is what I wanted to really look at was this forested, it's CLC cooperative land cover, right? Forested 100-year floodplains, and you can see right here where the reservoir is and the water is dammed up, where that is kind of missing, this chunk. And another way to look at this, the same thing, or similar thing, is if you come all the way down to land cover and turn on that bin, and the Davis map is an old one, which is, it has some neat points. You can explore that. But what I wanted to show you was the CLC. It's not showing up because you got to zoom in more because it's so detailed. I'm going to turn off the Davis and let's see. Okay, there we go. So the CLC is showing up. And for future talks, we can talk about this sandy soil that is all through this area and the importance of the connections between the forested wetlands and the swamp and up into these elevation change, dry and high places. But here's one to show you again. Here's a river, and here is, if you click on it, it shows you what it is. So cooperative land cover, that's a floodplain swamp, right? That's showing. This is another, click over, floodplain swamp. This is all just open water. And then it starts re-emerging right as the river gets back to its more natural sizes. And again, you see floodplain swamp again.